guys, welcome to the maiden voyage of BizUnLearned. Okay, we are here to launch today, and I am Bill Volpe.
Business Unlearned.
What?
You did business. You did unbusiness learned then.
I unbusiness learned them.
Yeah, you unbusiness learned them. Yeah. I think we've got to get the title right the first time round.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on a second.
He says, getting his bottle of beer. Unlearn bit, Biz Unlearned. We can make a feature of this, different forms.
Hey guys, welcome to the maiden voyage of Biz Unlearned. I'm Bill Volpe, otherwise known as Cowboy. That's how everybody knows me. I am a founder of Project Victories. I've got a number of books out, including Project Management Life Cycles book, Guide to Project Management Life Cycles. I've got 35 years of experience. I was former master business analyst at Hewlett Packard, and I was a project management office manager for the Ministry of Interior of Saudi Arabia. And me and my new partner are here today and every day afterwards to make sure that you get all the information that you never had before. So we're going to explain all of this stuff. So, Mark, take it away.
Well, if he's Cowboy, I'm Mark Layder, in this context, the biz connector. If he's the project manager, I connect everything. So it's me that got in touch with Bill from the background of coaching and high-end sales stuff over the years. And I just opened up because of Bill's work in project management that the biggest problem in business today was this execution implementation piece. And I'm the convert. I've seen the need for it. Bill, Cowboy Bill, his work deals with that. So I then said, well, what if we started to do something and create a new role in business that could get his work to much more people out there on affordable terms? And that's how we got here, Cowboy Bill.
And that's kind of what led to the podcast, because I already had a website, and we started a LinkedIn newsletter. We've been together just a few months now, and I didn't know if we were affecting all the people that we could affect and helping all the people that we could help. And so I thought about a podcast for a long time, and almost a bullet to my own head. I mean, I started my website, Project Victories, in 2011, 13 years ago. So I was creating all the damn content, including video, and I never broadcasted it. So, that felt kind of stupid, okay? But it took Mark to come on before I finally went, hey, maybe we should, do this podcast thing, okay? And actually reach out to some people, Mark, had you thought about doing that before?
Well, I've done a lot of more guest work, and I did start a little podcast a while ago, but, it just wasn't a priority at the time. But normally I find if you partner up like we're doing now, and each partner has got an energy and a focus and obviously the skills and stuff, then you've got a real base to take this material to more and more people. Because here we are, at the age and experience that we both are, and we came up with the name Business Unlearned for this podcast. So we better address that one as this is the orientation video for people ahead of the guests and things that are coming in future. Why did we call it Business Unlearned?
Well, that's a good question, because I'm an operator. That's what I do. Implementation, operation. I understand marketing. I understand sales, but I'm no good without a damn team. I'm a fucking project manager. I'm no good without a damn team. No man's an island type of thing. I'm no good without a team. And I've tried to established relationships with people like you before, but they failed to implement. They failed to follow through, and this is a big thing. And so we actually started putting together plans and making things happen, which is what's getting us on the air today. You know, and but you went through your own process of saying, okay, we've got a lot of stuff, but we got shit implementation. So, I mean, I knew that I was lacking in the marketing stuff and everything else. And at a place like Hewlett Packard, where I was a master business analyst, marketing was bullshit. Okay. Any numbers that they gave you, you could pretty much just take that report and throw it right out the fucking window. Okay. It was bullshit. I once had someone come to me with their marketing plan after we walked them all the way through it. Okay. I was in as a consultant. I brought in a contract manufacturing company. He walked them all the way through the marketing plan, so that they could present it to me. And that guy was an ex-Navy SEAL. And so he knew exactly what I needed for a plan. And the vice president of engineering was like, well, I don't know what the fuck you guys are saying, but you seem to speak each other's language. So just go do that shit that you do. Okay. And so they finally bring me a marketing plan, and we had $25,000 laid out for customer surveys, where we're actually going to go to different areas, 2 different countries. $25,000 seems like a really short number right now, but that was 2007. Okay. So, but they were going to do, customer experiences and surveys and really kind of get an idea of what the customer wants for the new product. And they handed me this marketing plan, and I said, well, this is really fucking great. I said, where's the customer data group data that actually backs this up? And they said, well, we're doing the customer data groups next month. And I said, well, if you already know what the fuck they want, why are you spending the money? And they were like, oh, shit. And so they fucked up the whole process. And this was a company that had been in business for over 100 years, but they had no idea about it, So what was your experience that led you here?
Well, I spend a lot of my time today, Bill, and have for, 30 odd years. My thing today now is seeing these genius level people. Literally, they are the best in the world at what they do. And what they do is different, obviously. They're what I call brain surgeons. They are the best, the skill. But they've been taught that they've got to be business people, and particularly marketing people. And it's like they go from the brain surgeon, and in my sort of little analogy that I always use is, you don't see brain surgeons standing at the front of the hospital saying, hey, you need a brain operation, I'm the best guy. Well, that's what these knowledge geniuses are doing. And they, typically some of them can sell, but they can't, they just don't have business management systems around them. So increasingly, because I was a blend of kind of sales and business, but also the shrinky coach stuff. So I got that human behavior thing and put it together. And because I'd done a lot of coaching over the years, I just started to realize that there was a lot of good delivery out there, but there wasn't distribution. So I started to realize I need to be in the distribution bit, because the problem is their businesses are designed with a fault in that they spend all of their lives trying to solve. I could do some of that. I could do some of the structuring stuff. I could reposition some of the business, but that was all sitting on, can they implement? And guess what? They couldn't do that either. So that's where then I reached out, because, I've got a sort of a buddy in the UK who's very senior project management background, but he's kind of very corporate. He's very academic and very knowledgeable, very clever dude. But he didn't have that response or that speed that you've got in terms of, hey, we can take these skills, which I kind of go through your project management stuff, and then, the skill to me is this integration piece. How do you get that available to, ideally, let's get it hardwired into startup businesses, but particularly businesses that are, few million getting going. They hit some very known sort of plateaus that they just can't get beyond. And for the most part, they're the pieces when I see, if they had access to project management in its various forms, that would be the piece that would get them through, because they plateau and then they can quantum jump. But a lot of them disappear at that point, because as we're having these calls in, US, UK type Western businesses, we've got an 80+% business failure in less than 5 years, but we've got more information than we've ever had in history before. Too much information is a part of the problem. And we've definitely got tools that mean you can set up an international business from your back office, your bed, your back bedroom. But something's missing and people can't put it all together. And for me, project management was the headline set of skills and tools that could address that problem. And that's where you and me as a blend seem to be. Let's go solve that problem, that putting it all together for people.
One thing that really stuck with me that you said over the last few months is that you used to place coaches in businesses, okay? And then eventually the businesses came back and they told you, because you're the connector, okay? They told you, and it's like, these fucking coaches, man, they don't know shit. Okay, it's like, we need someone that's actually got some real world experience that can say, I wouldn't piss on that electric fence if I were you, because this is how it's going to turn out. I mean, that really stuck with me when you said that. Can you tell me about that again?
Well, again, even before the coaching, where we started effectively, it's the whole virtualizing of businesses, isn't it? Where all you really need today is the core generalists that run the business, and maybe the odd brain, depending on what the business does. Then just about all the other services can be brought in externally. So we did that with coaches, the one you're talking about. But even if you go back into the dinosaur ages of when I was a kid in the 80s with the motor trade, and we brought finance and insurance people to sell all the finance packages, which are now easily the most profitable way of selling the cars. Well, that was a big thing in, 1985. And of course, it had started in the States before, and my Texan boss brought it to the UK. So I've seen all my business life, the business sort of internal people often struggling, where certain key people brought in from the outside, and it's got to be done properly, because it can be done badly like anything can. So there's another reason to project manage the change or whatever it might be. But I've seen this form of problem for all my business life, or business owners, if you like, and then, in bigger companies, CEO type people, struggling unnecessarily because they just didn't have in terms that we use today, they have the biz connector to get the just-in-time resources that they needed. They just didn't have that. So you'd summarize it today, the businesses were just badly designed. So we kept seeing, and the piece about the coaches that stuck with you that you just mentioned, that was the bit about if we placed the talent or the people, but they were then backed up by an umbrella center. So if we do the same thing now with these mini project managers, integrators as we currently call them, but that they are also attached to a hub that's got you and some of your other colleagues that have been, doing what you do for 30 odd years, then that transforms the service to the client, the end user. They can have their Trojan horse coach, integrator, whatever the role is. But if that's backed by what we in Britain call the flying squad, it's the high level police that you bring in when the big shit goes down. So if there's a flying squad, if there's an extra resource, the person that's there has got all of our experience pretty much on tap, which is a benefit to them, which is obviously a benefit to the kind of host company. So that just seems to me a simple, smart, cost-effective way that any business can leverage.
Well, and I agree. Okay, being on the outside, and when I say the outside, I mean the outside of whatever said corporation is. But inside that corporation, and I've found out over the years, it is very difficult for someone to hold up their hand and say, I need some fucking help.
Right.
And I want some help from somebody from outside. It seems like it's very hard for people to do that. And I think that begins because it's very hard, even on a personal level, for someone to say, I need some fucking help. I can't do everything myself. And that's a shortcoming as far as I'm concerned. Me, I've dealt with teams my whole damn life, be it military oriented or whatever. You were a team. You learn how to work together. You can't do everything your fucking self. You can't make all the mistakes yourself or anything else. But there is a definite resistance to bringing someone from outside. I mean, what have you seen there? I mean, because you're the guy who's made a career out of connecting people. What is it taking for someone to actually say, okay, screw it, we need help?
I think, Bill, number one, it takes whoever the decision maker is, the CEO or business owner. The successful business people over years, it's a line, isn't it? It's not that they know more. It's that they know that they continue to need to know more. So it's that open mind, that drive that will lead them to look at other possibilities. And probably in this particular area and, this time scale of current business, a few years after COVID and lots of things are perceived to have changed, you've got a world now that everybody's saying business has changed, but human beings haven't. So again, I think we got into this area because we could go to that place that said, we understand that. And we both live in countries that they're on a continuum, and the States is further along that line, on almost, we're all taught, and maybe a bit of a male bias in this too, or a male conditioning. But for the most part, people who live in both of our countries and most of what the world calls the Western economies were taught to be mainly rugged individualists. So saying there's something wrong, because the word that, or the phrase that starts to shift it in business is, we're in a who, not how world now for most business owners. It's the who can help me, not how do I struggle alone for years to get this done. Because the stats say they'll survive. But isn't it meant to be a thrival game? Job number one is survive, but then learn to thrive. And that's where it's got to have that open mind. And there's lots of stats that say, even a stat that says, if you prepare a business plan to go get funding, but that you never actually go and get the funding, just the exercise of doing the business plan is likely to increase your chances of various improved results. So it just makes you look at the business a bit differently, and whether people write that for you, but it just brings that objectivity. So it's a big mind shift in terms of the way we're going to thrive in business now, because statistically the old way of I'll just tough my way through it doesn't work. It's now who can I get to help me, because they've got complementary skills. So in your world, how do we bring contractors together? It's going to change employee. It's going to change all those statuses that have been there for last 50 to 100 years. That's all going to go, because the old boss relationship, everybody's whinging about the guy upstairs, but the guy upstairs pays the damn bills. So that's got to go. We haven't got time for that today. So it's the open-mindedness of that initial 5% that you get your critical mass to get your critical path, blah, blah, blah,
Sure.
that will start to change industry. So that it starts there with people that go, business was not meant to be a struggle. And for most people, it bloody well is.
Oh, absolutely. I remember you touched on a couple of things there that caused me to remember things like, one, you're doing the plan, but you didn't fucking go get the money. Okay. I mean, I self-published my books and because, that also means I had to promote my own books and things like that. I don't have a publisher for that, but self-publishing is starting to kill the traditional publishers. But even with self-publishing, only 1% of the world at any given moment is actually, written and published a damn book.
Right.
Okay. And only 1% of the 1% has had a bestseller. And I've run into so many people where they've been like, okay, I wrote my book 5 years ago. And I'm like, why the fuck isn't it published? And it's like, I don't know how to do that. Okay.
See, that's the brain surgeons don't publish their own books, do they?
I have a guy that writes for my website, and thanks to the internet, we lived in the same fucking city, but I've never met him face to face. Okay. But I've known him for over a decade. Okay. And he's like, can I have a meeting with you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, it's like, so we get in the meeting. He's like, listen, you've got a couple books out now. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, I've been trying to write a book for a while. And I said, okay, what's it about? Because he's a certified project manager. He's a good project manager. He writes for my website. I said, what's your book about? He goes, agile. And I'm like, okay, cool. I said, where's your project plan? He goes, well, I don't have a project plan. I'm like, you got a project. You can't figure out why it's not getting done. And you have no fucking plan. It's like, is that what you're telling me? And he goes, okay, fine. You busted me. And I'm like, I think you got your answer, man. And so, people don't follow through with the execution.
That's a classic example, that one, Bill, because when I wrote my book, I just happened to know this publishing guy and I did some work with him. So we did a quid pro quo deal. But the first thing he got me to do was he got me to organize the stories, and we sort of, like the Lego brick, we started to put them in order. And then when I'd got the draft written, he and I disagreed, actually, because the first chapter, once I got it laid out, and go, there's no way that's the first chapter. That's not the Biz Connector story. But at least he'd taken me through a framework, and we'd got a plan, and we'd got a place where we could update it between us. So that's where I was getting sort of project managed in a very positive way, and he added good qualities. So that's why the Business Unlearned thing becomes so important, because the description of your buddy, the project manager, he's back in brain surgeon land again, inefficient brain surgeon land, because he knows these things, but he's not even practicing what he teaches.
No, he's not. I'm like, what the fuck, man? You're a certified project manager. You're wondering why you can't get the fucking project done and you have no plan? And he goes, oh, shit. He's like, okay, I got it.
But, I don't want to
even
rattle
the
your
basics. I don't care how long you've done it. We still got to follow the basics. Okay? Stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. Stick to the plan.
I don't want to rattle your cage too much here, but this does cross us into, and I don't want it to be a beat up on agile and lean, but in your area, and I'm aware of them to the way that I'm aware of them, but you live around those type of terms. Maybe that's a subject for people in this sort of first session, without meaning to just say that they don't work, but you're now the things that you've been telling me and that I kind of knew of anyway, that the perception after a generation of this super duper new agile lean is, it gets creativity going, it gets energy going, but that actually it doesn't
That was the
deliver
perception, yes.
results. It doesn't deliver.
Yeah.
Not, to what the constraints of business is. There is an accountability. There is a budget. So that is not the enemy of the enthusiasm of, let me play in the sandpit and come up with 47 different ideas. And I can be that guy too, remember. So I know.
Oh, yeah.
But I also know. I know. But I also know it's got to be attached to the business context. Otherwise, the thing that's funding the projects, the operation, that dies too. So you kill the damn golden goose on that basis. And that's one of the examples of why we went with Business Unlearned. We've got to be able to bring these in things and go, guys, they ain't working. You've got to look at this a different way.
Hey, I'm a certified Scrum Master. I was in Austin, Texas, when they introduced Agile. My first wife was the manager of the nonstop software engineering department at HP. That's where we met, and that's where we fell in love and got married. And we're not together anymore, and it was a very agile relationship. Okay. And I told this guy, I'm like, you had the perfect case study for fucking Agile. You didn't want to do a plan, and you couldn't get your fucking book done. And you know what? The book is still not fucking done. He hasn't written his first fucking book yet. Okay? You cannot do things without a plan. Is there a time to be agile? Yes. We have to do flexibility and stuff like that. But you have to have knowledge of both structured project management and flexible project management in order to be able to do anything that's hybrid. And after 30 years of fucking Agile, since it was introduced ultimately in Austin in 1995, 1996, but they didn't really come out with the manifesto until 2001, it's been going on for a while now, but I often tell people, that Agile manifesto after 25, 30 fucking years is 13 fucking pages. All right. This is not a really long fucking process after 25 fucking years and lacks a lot of maturity. And so, yes, you need some flexibility there. Absolutely. And then there was another thing that you said about the boss and employee relationship type of thing, yeah. Right? That's kind of changed, right? Because, especially if you're a subject matter expert. Because I remember this guy where he was expanding his sheet metal and machining shop into Texas. And I owned a company that did security and home automation, lighting control and stuff like that. I was in Southern Living Magazine in America and all kinds of stuff, for idea houses. And so I ended up working on his 5,000 square foot house. And for 6 months, he kept on me. He goes, "You like working for yourself?" He's like, "You like working for yourself?" I'm like, "What the fuck do you want, man?" I'm like, "You keep asking me this." He's like, "I need someone to start an IT department in my company. I don't have one, and I'm expanding. This is now my second state." And I'm like, "Okay, maybe we can talk." Okay. And so I went in there. I ended up selling off my company. I started his IT department as CIO, and every now and then he'd get frustrated with the IT department. And one time he happened to call in somebody from an IT consulting company. I think it was called Eggheads or something. And he calls him in and they charge him like $75 an hour and they still fucked it up. All right. And I went over there and fixed it. And so one day, because I got everything like really hitting on all 12 cylinders, this is running smooth. Right. He's trying to figure out just exactly what we're doing because I get everything running smooth. And he's making some smart ass comment. He's like, "I'm thinking about making the IT department part-time." And I'm like, "Well, that sounds like a good fucking deal to me." I'm like, what are those eggheads fucking cost you? $75 an hour? I'm like, "I'll go part-time for $150 an hour. How about that?" Okay. And he's like, "Fuck you." Okay. So, it was but it was running smoothly because of the process, because of implementation, all of these things that took place. And so, everyone kept asking him, how come this CIO guy has so much control over you? And he's like, you don't understand how much he can actually do. It might look like nothing, but it's a lot. Okay. And so that changed the whole paradigm.
But if you think about it, Bill, though, that particular story and a lot of what we've talked about before all fits. It would, wouldn't it? But this is why we're calling the podcast Business Unlearned, because we deliberately, us introducing it today and then with guests, on future episodes as we go forward, we've got to unpack this whole, I like the word because I was brought up with it, paradigm, but it's a bit highbrow. It's a bit highfalutin paradigm, but it just means a way of doing things. It's a science word, really, isn't it? That means if you're looking for a particular outcome, you find that and you don't see the other stuff. Well, currently in that jargony stuff, the business paradigm in your language is fucked. I mean, it's statistically
we're definitely fucked. Okay.
It is, partially joking to make the point, but I'm also deadly serious because the evidence says, and in the two countries, what we've got Shark Tank in the States, and we've got ours is Dragon's Den, and there's other variants, and it's around the world. That model of I stand here and pitch you guys with money, and we're going to argue about the percentage and what the valuation of the company is, and that whole model now, except for the guys with the money who've operated that system for a period of time, the new generation of people are increasingly failing in that because it no longer works. And what you're going to get into, the business unlearning, the new business paradigm stuff, the new approaches, means we've got to completely think differently about business. And that's what the podcast is going to be about, isn't it? That's the what. We are going to talk about, what got us into this was the boss-employee relationship. And there was a post on LinkedIn, and it's a guy, he runs the company, and he's got this blackboard thing, and he's got this list of things his employees had asked him for that week, and can I take time off to take my kids to the dentist? Can I take time? It's all these, the people they're nice people, but what he's kind of saying is we've got to get back to, because he's sort of got, no, guys, no, you've got to set
how about you get some shit done? Okay?
Yeah, exactly. So, but the flaw in that is, see, if those people were contractors, that problem goes away. And the world's now got so needy, and so, well, my dog's having its leg off, and it's getting its toenails done, and can I you get, no, we need to get your...
It's like, that's fine, go ahead and fucking take off. Your due date does not change, and you don't get paid if you don't make the fucking due date. Okay?
Right. That would be a very clear way to work, wouldn't it? And it's that, because everything's muddy and... So, that's business unlearned.
That's the same owner of the damn sheet metal company. He was coming in later in the day, right? And it was back in the 90s, right? So I was doing backups late at night when we only had one shift and everyone was gone. And he's like, well, the network slows down at night, when I'm here. And I'm like, yeah, the network's backing up, at that point in time. And he's like, well, but I need it to be faster. And I'm like, you need it to be faster? Why don't you get your fucking ass to work on time? And he goes, I'm the owner of the company. And I'm like, yeah, well, get your owner ass to work on fucking time. Okay? I'm like, do you want to slow down the whole fucking company, or do you want it fast for you? Okay? And he was like, fuck.
But you're touching on 2 points there, though, because on the one hand, he's the owner, so he can do whatever hours he wants. But your wider point is this whole relationship. We've got this kind of whinge culture, haven't we? That says if we're in, you manage your stuff because that's the time scale. And of course, no plan. What is it? No plan survives contact with the enemy. So it doesn't mean you don't do the plan. you do the plan, but the plan's then got to be very flexible based on the information coming back in, because that's where people then, they get the plan and then they get too rigid with the damn thing. So get the plan, but then let it be flexible based on the analytics and the review processes. That's going to be a key piece of Business Unlearned, isn't it?
Well, see, that's the nature of a hybrid life cycle now, which is going to lead me to write another chapter in my book, Guide to Project Management Life Cycles. But what scares me right now is that the people that are saying hybrid today are the people who have only known agile and scrum because they resisted traditional project management. They resisted, they didn't want to be a project manager. They didn't want to be told what to do. They said software is an art form. It's done when it's done. And I said, fuck you, software is a product. It's done on December 7th. So get your ass moving. And so now instead of saying that agile has failed, now they're trying to say, oh, we've come up with this revolutionary new way to do things. It's called hybrid, which means now we're going to actually try and do some fucking planning. But here's the problem. If you spent 20 years, 30 years resisting traditional project management, and you've only known this fly by the seat of your pants shit, how do you know anything about putting together a fucking hybrid life cycle? You know, it's like putting together a hybrid car. If you don't know how to adjust a fucking carburetor and you don't understand electric cars, how are you going to marry them? You know, there's no fucking way. In order to be able to marry them, you got to know both. You know, and so their hybrid life cycles will be a failure because they don't understand both sides. And that's amazing. And to me, you know, that now they're trying to say, oh, we're going to go hybrid. And it's like, what, you're just going to magically go hybrid? And I'm sure all of these licensing organizations out there are going to create a hybrid life cycle certification for someone so that they can sell that off for $500 a piece or something. And the people creating this hybrid life cycle probably won't know shit because there's not too many people that got 35 years of fucking experience and was there at the beginning to see this thing fuck up, you know? And so I don't see success happening there. I see that as another point of failure because they don't know enough to even create the hybrid life cycle. And this kind of gets back to the coaches that you were talking about originally.
Absolutely. You're describing the reason that's got failure hardwired in is because the company or whoever's gonna, oh, we need people that have got hybrid training or what. It's always that next big thing. It's like AI today. Most businesses that we find, if they're going to use AI in the future, and they will, they don't need it today for the most part. So they could be exploring it. They could be looking at it, researching it. But this whole rush to the next big thing, when all the stats say, well, guys, if we've got so many failures, these next big things aren't working. So that lets us, again, talk to whether it's the more project management end of people that are listening, whether it's the business owners or then more corporate C-suite people. That whole thing is encapsulated by, at the buying end, Business Unlearned is, we've got to, I don't like saying stop, but you know what I mean. We've got to flash the red light and says, guys, you know that process, that buying process, that buy the next big thing. It's not working because it doesn't get integrated with the thing that buys it. And that's a big part of this whole integration, so that we're going to buy whatever it is, but the work's got to be done on the buying entity to get it ready to assimilate that thing. And whether or not that's a project manager, it starts from a change in thinking. Unlearn. It's because if we don't do that bit, and if the podcast doesn't have people realize, through no fault of anybody's, we don't need to, incriminate everybody. We just got to accept the current models aren't working for most people, and that's what we want this place. And whether it's us talking to each other and to guests in the future, or to the other things that we write, or people can come and talk to us or book calls with us. We want us to be a forum for that conversation, because it is broke and it does need fixing.
Absolutely. And your people, your culture, your industry, your piece of the industry, that distribution and the marketing and shit is exactly why the agile took off. It was a shit idea. We want to be agile because we really fucking hate project managers, and we just like to get into the cool shit and start coding. We don't want to do that planning crap. That's actually work. We want to do the cool shit and just start coding. Software is an art form. It's done when it's done. Fuck you. It's a fucking part of business, and it's a product. So, no, it needs to be done by December, because that's where the marketing window is. But a bad idea took off because of good marketing and good distribution. I mean, at least Hitler fucking got that part right. You tell a big enough lie, you tell it enough fucking times, then they're going to buy the bullshit, And it took off, and it cost the industry trillions of dollars. I mean, we were at a 50% failure rate in project management in early 2000 when Agile was really introduced and took off. And they went to a 70% failure rate. And after 25 years, they go, well, maybe this shit ain't fucking working. I mean, what fucking Einstein came up with the idea that, well, the way to make this process better is to just remove all process? Well, that's a genius move. But it had great marketing on a bad idea, and it just took the hell off. So getting the message out there is clearly something that needs to happen. And so I'm somebody who looked at it the whole damn time, but I couldn't get the message out there, which is why you're great at this.
If you think about it, that example, the agile one, and as we're using as an illustration, but even, when you think of, we used to run a hotel, and the chefs, we changed the whole chefing system and stuff. But if ever there's an industry that most of us have dealt with, hotels, their agile story is the chef that will make terrific food, but he also will bankrupt the hotel because they have no sense of cost so unless you've got whether it's a budget or somebody that reviews them, so you're back into the chef becomes the brain surgeon again, isn't it? And they want to be wonderfully expressive, and they want to be, which is great, but it's got to be wonderfully expressive within certain parameters, and that
it's a 99-cent fucking hamburger.
Well, but the marketplace goes, oh, but we're stilting creativity, and we're not, guys. We're actually a little bit of scarcity if it's done for the right reason, because the business has only got so much money to back a project or whatever it is. A little bit of scarcity for the right reasons actually increases creativity. So we're just giving the sandpit is only certain width, certain size, certain amount of sand. And it's those business realities that we've just got to bring to people and let them look at them and go, guys, come on now. This is big boys and big girls pants time in business. We're all going to tell it like it is. We're all going to be honest. We're all going to put our hands up to where we screwed up. And that's our subject, isn't it? We've only got a few minutes left for our session, so we could be talking here till midnight when we get going. But,
sure.
The next time people see us, we're going to have a guest with us then as we wrap up today.
Absolutely. Yep, we got a number of guests lined up, and I think this is going to be informative for all our listeners, and it's a good thing to be launching today. But yeah, to your point, I remember I had finally reached Master Business Analyst at Hewlett Packard, and master level was the top 5% of the company. So I'd become top 5% of a global 10 company. And the only thing after that was fellow, and someone had to just die and fucking will that on you, okay? Because there was no way you were making fellow. And they laid off, and they fucked off Carly Fiorina. and and the VP that I reported to at the time was a woman, and they said, I don't know why they brought in Mark Hurd, because he did. He was only with it. He was in NCR, and they only did $9 billion a year. Well, Hewlett Packard was $80 billion. It's like he doesn't have the experience for this. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? And she's like, what are you talking about? Okay. And I'm like, well, listen. One, they had to bring someone in from outside the company to show the stock market that things were going to change. Two, there was no way in hell it was going to be another woman. Okay, sorry, might be sexist, but that's the truth. Okay, just get over yourself. Three, I said, we do $80 billion a year with 160,000 employees. That's about $340,000 of the head. Pretty much what IBM is doing. We're bigger than Dell, but Dell is doing $1 million to the head. Mark Hurd is coming from a $9 billion company with 6,000 people. That's $1.5 million to the fucking head. I said, your new number is $1 million to the head. And what you need to do is either fuck off that services organization that we got from digital that only does about $13 billion and has 60,000 people in it, or you need to find $70 billion somewhere. Well, I was subsequently sent out the fucking door a couple of months later. But 2 years later, Mark Hurd did exactly what I said. And my phone went ballistic that day as a consultant as I sat at Chili's having a fucking beer. Okay.
Well, on that
everybody
note,
said,
Business Unlearned,
you said that 2 years ago.
Occasionally, you can have a beer in business, as we know. So, looks like we're ready for our next session with our guest, Bill, because we've done our time for today.
You got it. Well, we're going to wrap it up today, folks. And you know what? We look forward to you seeing the rest of us in the future and our guests, because we got good guests lined up. And we hope to bring you great information. We look forward to any feedback we get from you, and we look forward to answering all the questions you have and giving you good information. So until next time, let's get her done this week.
Go Business Unlearned.